Once it defined Italian elegance. Today, it's at a crossroads. Valentino was known for consistency, red carpet glamour, couture precision, and a sense of timeless restraint. It didn't follow trends. It didn't need to. But after the sudden exit of longtime creative director Pierpaolo Piccioli in 2024, everything changed. His replacement, Alessandro Michele, brought a radically different vision. The collections became louder, the brand's identity less clear. And for the first time in years, Valentino is facing real backlash from critics, loyal customers, and even within the industry. Luxury houses evolve all the time. But what happens when a brand built on refinement suddenly turns into something else entirely? Valentino wasn't born from revolution. It was built on refinement. When Valentino Garavani opened his first shop in Rome in 1960, Italian fashion was still in the shadow of Paris. Valentino wasn't out to rewrite fashion rules. He was trying to perfect them. After nearly a decade training under Parisian masters Jean Dessay and Guy Laroche, he knew exactly what good couture looked like. But Valentino wasn't French, and Paris made sure he felt it. Feeling out of place, he moved home, determined to beat the French at their own game. He wasn't alone. That same year, he met Giancarlo Giametti, an architecture student whose eye for business perfectly matched Valentino's creative ambition. Quickly, Giametti became Valentino's partner, not just in business, but in life, and together they built a brand based on classic glamour and meticulous control. Valentino designed, Giametti handled strategy, and both obsessed over the details. From the start, Valentino stood out, not because it was provocative, but because it was immaculate. His first collections featured flawless tailoring, luxurious fabrics, and grand but tasteful silhouettes. And from the very beginning, one specific detail defined Valentino: the vivid, unmistakable shade now known as Valentino Red. Legend has it, Garavani first saw this striking color at an opera in Barcelona, worn by a woman who stood out from everyone else in the theater. He never forgot it, and neither would the world. Valentino's international breakthrough came quickly. In 1962, just 2 years after launching, he debuted a collection at Palazzo Pitti in Florence. The entire collection sold out in less than an hour, immediately capturing Vogue's attention. By 1968, Women's Wear Daily crowned him the king of Italian fashion. Before long, the world's most famous women, Jackie Kennedy, Elizabeth Taylor, Princess Margaret, were lining up for Valentino gowns, each new client boosting the brand's elite reputation. But the real secret to Valentino's early success wasn't just beautiful clothes or famous faces, it was control. Every detail was intentional, consistent, and carefully orchestrated, from runway presentations to boutique interiors. Nothing felt accidental or casual. Valentino wasn't just selling dresses. It was selling a vision of perfection. By the late 1970s, Valentino had transformed from a niche Roman couturier into a global luxury powerhouse. Licensing deals expanded the empire into ready-to-wear, accessories, and fragrances, always carefully managed, always on brand. While other labels chased trends, Valentino remained steady, reliable, timeless. But even the most carefully built image can't stay untouched forever. For decades, Valentino stood frozen in time, luxurious, elegant, and slightly untouchable. But by the early 2000s, the fashion world was shifting, and Valentino had to evolve, or risk becoming irrelevant. In 2002, Valentino was sold to the Marzotto Group, an Italian industrial conglomerate known for textile and luxury investments. A decade later, in 2012, the brand changed hands again, this time to Mayhoola for Investments, a Qatari fund aiming to grow global luxury brands. Mayhoola's acquisition ushered in a new era of international expansion and long-term strategic planning. In 2008, Valentino Garavani retired, leaving a daunting void behind. His first successor, Alessandro Facchinetti, lasted barely a year. The brand needed someone who understood its heritage, but also had the confidence to move it forward. It found two designers already hidden inside the house. Maria Grazia Chiuri, and Pierpaolo Piccioli. Together, Chiuri and Piccioli gave Valentino something new: freshness. They didn't abandon Valentino's classic codes. They modernized them. The elegant silhouette stayed, but now they felt lighter, younger, more wearable. Collections became more accessible without sacrificing the fantasy that defined the house. Customers noticed. Sales climbed. The brand felt alive again. Then, in 2016, Chiuri left to lead Dior, leaving Piccioli to take over Valentino alone. At first, the industry held its breath. Could he carry the house on his own? The answer was an emphatic yes. Piccioli quickly revealed a singular vision. Valentino under his direction wasn't just beautiful. It was emotional. His collections were more poetic, more inclusive, more connected to the moment. He introduced vibrant colors like PP pink, staged shows that made headlines, and made Valentino feel relevant to a new generation. Stars like Zendaya became ambassadors, injecting youth and energy into a brand that once seemed untouchable. Piccioli didn't discard Valentino's legacy. He reinvented it. Under his guidance, couture felt contemporary, sophisticated, yet relaxed. For the first time, Valentino became not just admired but desired. Revenue surged, critics praised his every move, and the fashion world recognized Valentino as one of luxury's modern leaders. But even as Valentino soared, no one saw what was coming next. In March 2024, after nearly 25 years at the house, 8 of those years on his own, Piccioli suddenly announced he was leaving. No dramatic fallout, no scandal, just the quiet end of an era that had seemed unstoppable. Valentino had faced transitions before, but this time felt different. Piccioli hadn't just guided Valentino. He had become Valentino. Without him, the brand had to start again, and it was about to take the biggest gamble in its history. When Pierpaolo Piccioli left Valentino in 2024, the fashion world expected continuity. Valentino, after all, was built on stability, but the brand chose exactly the opposite: a designer known for maximalism, eclecticism, and complete unpredictability. Alessandro Michele. Michele wasn't an unknown risk. For nearly a decade, he'd reshaped Gucci into a luxury powerhouse. Wild prints, vintage aesthetics, and chaotic layering became his signature. But Gucci was always about bold moves and headline-grabbing moments. Valentino was not. The match felt odd, maybe even dangerous. But that seemed precisely the point. His debut collection for Valentino, presented in spring 2025, was titled Vertigineux, Dizzying, in French. And it was exactly that: overwhelming, theatrical, and packed with cultural references. Models walked in surrealist masks and dramatic gowns, while names like Freud and Cleopatra flashed across screens behind them. It was maximalism taken to extremes, a spectacle so loud it drowned out Valentino's legacy of quiet elegance. The reactions were immediate and sharply divided. Some praised Michele's boldness, calling it a necessary shake-up for a house stuck in tradition. But longtime Valentino devotees were confused. To them, Michele's vision didn't feel fresh. It felt recycled. Critics quickly pointed out similarities to his work at Gucci, questioning whether Valentino was losing itself entirely. The backlash wasn't just about aesthetics. It was deeper. For decades, Valentino had stood for clarity, consistency, and controlled elegance. Now, suddenly, it was messy and provocative, chasing trends rather than setting them. Even some of the brand's most loyal customers felt alienated. Michele was bringing attention to Valentino, but not always the kind it wanted. And behind the flashy runway theatrics, numbers began telling a different story. Profits started sliding. Core customers hesitated to embrace Michele's vision, unsure if this new Valentino still represented them. As uncertainty crept in, one question became unavoidable. Has Valentino's quest to reinvent itself pushed the brand too far? The initial backlash against Alessandro Michele's first Valentino collection wasn't just noise. It quickly became a financial reality. By spring 2025, Valentino's sales figures started reflecting customer confusion and skepticism. Early indicators showed profits down sharply, more than 20% compared to previous years. Markets that had been loyal strongholds, especially Europe and Asia, saw unexpected dips in store traffic and sales conversions. Suddenly, Valentino's carefully curated clientele seemed hesitant about investing in Michele's vision. But the numbers only told half the story. The controversy escalated after Michele's Fall-Winter 2025 collection, which was staged in a space designed to look like a public restroom. The set featured tiled walls, metallic fixtures, and a sterile atmosphere that sharply contrasted with Valentino's legacy of elegance. The show was described by some as conceptual art, meant to disrupt ideas of beauty and exclusivity. But to many, it crossed a line. Loyal fans of the brand were baffled. Fashion critics described the setting as aggressive and alienating, while longtime Valentino clients saw it as a deliberate provocation. Social media amplified the fallout, with comments calling the show confused, unrecognizable, and disrespectful. The stunt might have gained attention, but it didn't build trust. For a house once defined by grace and control, this felt like chaos disguised as reinvention. Further complicating matters, Michele's designs continued echoing his Gucci past, fueling accusations that Valentino was simply becoming Gucci's twin, just with a different logo. Fashion journalists repeatedly raised this issue, arguing that the lack of originality was harming Valentino's carefully built legacy. Articles began openly questioning Michele's suitability for Valentino's unique heritage and refined clientele. Internally, the tension grew as well. Reports surfaced of behind-the-scenes disagreements within Valentino's management over Michele's provocative strategies and declining sales performance. Staff who had worked for years under Piccioli's calm, controlled elegance reportedly struggled with Michele's disruptive approach, creating friction and instability behind closed doors. Valentino found itself in an identity crisis not seen before in its long history. Sales were falling, customers were turning away, critics were skeptical, and even insiders doubted whether Michele's controversial direction was sustainable. A once quiet powerhouse of Italian luxury was now a hotbed of uncertainty and division, leaving many to wonder openly if Valentino had finally lost control of its own story. Recognizing the damage, Valentino began shifting its messaging. The house quickly pivoted away from controversial runway stunts, instead releasing a Fall-Winter 2025 campaign focused on everyday elegance. The new campaign deliberately portrayed quiet, relatable moments, emphasizing simplicity over spectacle. It was clearly an attempt to calm criticism and reassure uneasy customers that Valentino hadn't entirely lost its original identity. At the same time, Valentino began making cautious, strategic decisions to stabilize its financial position. Early reports from May 2025 indicated the brand was reconsidering its runway strategy entirely, announcing a reduction from 2 annual couture shows to just 1, likely a response to internal and external pressures aiming for fewer risks and stronger brand clarity. Further, Valentino began promoting sustainability initiatives more aggressively, including clear commitments to fur-free collections and increased transparency in sourcing. Industry analysts viewed these moves as attempts to rebuild trust with consumers who increasingly valued ethics alongside aesthetics. Still, underlying uncertainty remained. Internally, reports emerged of growing dissatisfaction with Michele's controversial direction. Though the brand publicly continued supporting him, whispers within fashion circles suggested tension behind the scenes. Valentino, historically tight-lipped about internal affairs, found itself dealing with unusual public scrutiny over its direction and future. Externally, the brand's new owners, Mayhoola for investments, faced increasing scrutiny from industry observers. Mayhoola, a Qatari investment group, had built its reputation on luxury brand growth and stability, not controversy or rapid change. Michele's risky decisions placed them in an uncomfortable spotlight. prompting speculation about their long-term plans for Valentino. And then there was the looming question of Kering's involvement. Having acquired a 30% stake in Valentino earlier, Kering retained the option to acquire full control by 2028. Industry insiders began openly wondering if Valentino's recent struggles might accelerate that timeline or shift Kering's strategy entirely, further complicating Valentino's already uncertain future. Its attempts to regain consumer trust and brand stability were evident, but the path forward remained uncertain. One thing was clear, though. Valentino's legacy of quiet elegance had been disrupted, and rebuilding consumer confidence was going to take more than just new advertising campaigns. It would require a careful reconsideration of its very identity. Today, Valentino stands at a complicated crossroads. Once a brand that defined quiet luxury, consistency, and controlled elegance, it's now searching for clarity. Alessandro Michele's appointment was meant to inject fresh energy, but instead brought deep controversy, customer confusion, and financial uncertainty. The ultimate challenge for Valentino isn't just financial, it's cultural. Can the brand find its way back to the subtle, refined elegance that once made it so powerful? Or has it already strayed too far? I'm curious what you think. Has Alessandro Michele's vision pushed Valentino into exciting new territory? Or does it feel like a brand that's lost its soul? Because in the end, Valentino's future will depend on more than marketing or runway shows. It will depend on whether people like us, those who care about craftsmanship, clarity, and consistency, still recognize ourselves in what the brand has become. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.